It is 2 after.
Hey, good afternoon,
right
everybody.
on time.
Tom Stewart here. I'm with Liz Trotter. Our guests today are David Loria and Frank Tibbits, and this is Smart Business Moves.
Hey, y'all.
Now, I've known David for a while. He owns and is the CEO of a really awesome house cleaning company in Michigan called Squeaky's Cleaning. And David, I'll let you introduce Frank.
Yeah. So my name's Dave. I own Squeaky's Cleaning in Michigan. Franklin and I went to college together.
Oh,
Franklin was always smarter than me, and I knew that, but I didn't know specifically how much smarter than me until I started talking about problems that I had at Squeaky's. So Frank, I'll let you talk about what you do for a living and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so hi, Franklin Tibbits. I'm a senior systems engineer at a tier 1 automotive supplier in Detroit. So we set up prototype vehicle production lines and audit the system and operate it.
okay.
Yeah. So
Caught my attention there. That was good.
I would come to him and I would complain about issues I was having at Squeaky's with, building systems or processes for things. And he would have all these great ways that he knew how to build a process. Like he'd have step-by-step instructions already laid out for me. And I couldn't believe it that, all this wealth of information existed. I mean, most of what business owners talk about, it seems like, is trying to build systems for things, right? And so basically I was blown away at how much information that, manufacturing engineers have and how much is written about how to create systems. And so him and I, he helped me with some issues, and then we actually ended up building inventory management software for Squeaky's that we're now kind of outselling to other cleaning companies.
Oh, I didn't know it was inventory management. How did I miss that piece?
Yeah, I don't know. We talked about it a little bit in Vegas, but you had a lot of people talking to you in Vegas.
She wasn't paying attention. She doesn't listen well.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Actually, she does. She just has memory issues.
That's a fact right there. I can't even argue that one. All right. So I'm excited now. All right. And now I'm tagging some people over here too.
Okay.
Get over here.
So Frank, your like day job, if you will, you work in manufacturing. Is it in the automotive world?
Yep, exactly. We're a complete vehicle. We're a contract manufacturer for complete vehicle.
So if you think about inventory control and manufacturing processes and just, having disciplined processes, you can't make a car without that, I guess. So that's
so
part of it.
I've always said to Dave, the reason everything's so rigid in manufacturing is the amount of money it costs when things go wrong. So if you're on a high volume production line, you're talking $35,000 a minute per downtime.
Ooh,
Oh,
if it goes down for an hour, it's millions and millions of dollars. So
that's good.
It has to be perfect and on time.
Yeah,
So
that's a good number right there.
I remember the story, like this was a while ago. Some American automobile manufacturers were over in Japan, and they got to the end of the conveyor line, and they asked, well, where's the guy with the rubber mallet? And it's like, what do you mean? The guy with the rubber mallet that beats the door until it closes the way it's supposed to. And I guess in part they used to make cars that way because they didn't want to stop the line to fix whatever was going on at the root cause.
Yeah. It's a tough call to stop the line, but sometimes it has to happen.
And then you pull the line you pull the cord or whatever, it stops the line, and then you have to be concerned you might lose your job.
Yeah. All the sirens go off.
How are you pulling that? Who has the cojones to pull that cord when you know it's that much money per minute?
You're not going to believe it, but there's a process.
Okay. I do believe it.
There's a
I love
system
it.
for when to pull it.
Yeah. I actually love that. I do believe it. That's kind of cool. I'm excited.
We do have some slides. Should I pull those up now, you think?
In a quick minute, we forgot to take care of business because I got distracted. Liz.
Because I was pressuring him to start on time, y'all. That's what messed everything up. All right.
Well, David, we're going to be up your way in August.
I know. I was just talking to Laura about it. I just saw that on our Facebook.
Yeah. Okay. What are we doing here on the 15th and 16th, Liz?
I'm looking. What am I doing?
It's client nurture workshop.
Yes,
Or
good
Lisa.
job. Thank you. I'm looking at my big calendar on the wall here. Yeah, client nurture workshop. We will be giving you everything that you need to build your client nurture program. You'll still have to build it, but we're going to tell you where to put it, when to do the things, what things you should be doing, how often, what things are going to work, what things aren't going to work. We're going to help you build that nurture workshop. I mean, that nurture program, the entire plan for nurturing your clients. And you're going to do the work you're going to do a lot of work in the actual workshop.
So nurturing existing clients. So the idea is to make them long-term, high-frequency, recurring clients.
Yeah. Clients that just never leave. Right?
Maximize that lifetime value.
Make them so sticky that they never want to leave you. Because I think we all know, and especially the bigger your company gets, the harder it is to be overcoming loss, right? So I was talking to a company that's doing about 3.4 million, and she's like, I just don't understand. You know, we've always been able to grow, no problem, and our loss rate isn't any worse than it was before, but her loss rate is sitting at 5.1%. That's a lot of clients that you have to overcome at a $3.5 million company, right? That's a big number.
That's brutal.
And
you know, we've got tools like toolbox.madecentral.com. You can plug in your core KPIs and you can see what type of results you're going to get with churn rate that high. And it's not nearly as good as it would be if you had a more modest number. Hey, Danae. Hey, Don. How y'all doing?
Hey, yeah.
So the day before, we're going to be doing a workshop, same one that we did up in Chicago a couple weeks ago. I mean, it's good. Well, we'll throw some new stuff in there because it's changing quickly. But it says a one-day workshop on artificial intelligence. And Alvin Gehring from our team kind of takes the lead on that. And we had a lot of fun. You know, we talk a little bit about, you know, some AI principles, just kind of bring you up to speed. We share a whole lot of tools with you that you can use in your business for marketing, for sales, for customer support, for HR. And in the afternoon, we build a bot. We give you some tools to do that, where like you can take your personnel manual or your cleaning playbook or anything that you've got, the FAQs on your website, and build a bot that basically asks it a question and will give you the answer. And if you've got a pretty good handbook, you would be surprised that you can get pretty good answers. You can take that bot and put it on your website, do a lot of different things with it. And it's not intended to turn you into an AI expert, but you know, most of us are running our cleaning business, and you need to know how to use some of these tools, and you and the people in your team will be able to get better outcomes more quickly by using some of these tools. But quickly to the point, if you're not using some AI every day, you're probably working harder than you need to and not getting as good outcomes as you could.
So, I'm excited, Tom, because I don't know if you'll remember this. I wanted to go to Chicago, and I ended up not being able to go. I was having just a little bit of a fever. I thought I better not go. But I was so stressed. I really wanted to go to this workshop. And so I pinged you and said, hey, Tom, any chance you can do this in Michigan? And you're like, don't know, Liz. We're going to have to see how it goes. So I was like, oh, I hope it goes well in Chicago because I really need it in Michigan.
Well, Lisa Shaw was in Chicago, and she came up to me and said that we had to do this because we're the thing that we're doing in Michigan is at Lisa Shaw's office outside of Detroit. Was it Rochester?
Yeah. Rochester Hills. Rochester. Yeah. I called her Laura, by the way. I meant Lisa.
Lisa. Yeah. And Lisa loved it. Wanted us to do it again, and we love Lisa. So yeah, sure, we can do it again. And it really isn't a Made Central thing either. I'll just throw that in there. It's, you know, it doesn't matter what software you're using. We're kind of agnostic in this program. We just use this stuff inside the Made Central team all the time, and we feel it's something that we should share with the community.
Are you live streaming that, Tom, your event?
Ooh, we might be. I'm surprised. I was
think we are
approached, I was approached about that, and I had a couple balls in the air this week. Probably should.
So I'm pretty sure I am doing the client nurture program, Dawn, and I'm reasonably sure that Tom is going to. He just hasn't pulled the trigger yet.
I will confirm that tomorrow. I'm going to make a note.
All right.
Should have done
Oh,
it before.
we need to put me down at the bottom, Tom, so that when we put comments on, doesn't go over Frank
Oh,
or David.
We don't want to do that.
I kind of like it when it goes over my face. Gives me a break from having to do that. Oh, I don't think I can move them. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. That's better. That's better. That's better.
Okay, we're going to be doing some stuff in Charleston in September, real quick. Liz, you're going to be here on the 23rd and 24th doing leading and managing by the numbers.
Yep. So one of the things that I find, working with all of the business owners in the circles, et cetera, is even when they know this stuff, they don't know how to lead their people using these numbers. They don't know how to get their people on board, understand what the numbers are, figure out how to communicate the importance of these numbers and how to actually make the changes that are going to impact those numbers on a wider scale. If they were the only ones doing the work, no problem. But when you have a team of people that you're trying to get moving forward and you want everybody to be moving according to these numbers, it's a little bit of a heavier lift. So that's what we're going to be workshopping. Lisa's been to that workshop as well. She begged me to do that one again. So Lisa, she really is a big pusher. We like her because we do what she says. I just realized if Lisa says do it, we do it.
Gotta do it.
Yeah.
Well, on the back end of that, on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of that week, the 25th through 27th, we're doing another Made Central Academy live. We've done this. This must be the 12th time. I don't know. We've done a bunch of these over the last few years, but we've extended it to now a 3-day program. Everybody gets their own data in a test environment, and we just do a deep dive on all the core KPIs and how to use Made Central in a way to draw the green numbers up and the red numbers down. And this is going to sell out. It always does. And that's in September.
Especially now that you guys added on that 3rd day. That's amazing. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, David.
Now.
Do you want to share your deck and take us into some of this?
Yeah.
Super excited. So, Denise and Dawn, I don't think y'all were on here yet. Glad you're on here. We're talking systems, and Frank is a systems master. He's got chops behind what he does. But another big thing is inventory control, y'all. Super excited.
Yeah, we actually just recently there was a post in the Made Central group that was talking about it, and I had commented. We've been talking to a lot of Made Central companies who are interested in inventory management. It's a big topic right now. So yeah, kind of just going back to what we were saying. So I met Franklin. I've known Franklin for a while. I would complain to him about business issues. He would have all these great ways to build systems, and so for this talk, we were going to kind of focus on, what are these engineering type processes for building a system, and how can we better apply them to small business or cleaning companies, whatever else. To start, our first question we answered was, what is a system? And I wrote it down in our notes here, and Franklin answered it without Googling it. He had a great answer. So I'll let Frank chime in with what his answer was.
What did I call it? I think I called it a collection of processes that take inputs and turn them into a desirable output.
Oh,
I love it. Like a process flow chart.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nice.
We have a variety.
Way of explaining that.
Yeah.
I bet you Chat GPT would come up with something similar.
Dave said, I'm Frank GPT.
There you go.
That's funny you say that. Yeah.
When we were on the phone.
So yeah, so that's what a system is in this context. I'm not going to spoon feed everyone here. I think everyone understands what the benefits of a system in a business would be. Uh, but talking, there are a lot you don't think of, right? So repeatability is kind of an obvious one. It's easy to repeat things when you have them written down, when you have a structured way of doing it. Increased efficiency is another easy one. Everyone, I think, for the most part, understands that. Employee satisfaction is a really interesting one you don't think about. Uh, Employees want clear-cut expectations,
Oh, yeah.
right? And I've noticed that the more structure we add for our business, the happier our staff is, and the harder they work because they know what's expected of them. They know what the metrics are they have to hit, and everyone's happier because of it.
Hey, David, the question is going to be asked if anybody watching wants a copy of this deck, can you share it with them?
Totally. Yep. Yeah, we'll put
So,
that. We'll give that to you guys to distribute, however you think.
yeah, if you want it, just send an email to tomstewart@madecentral.com.
Cool. So yeah, that was a really interesting one to me that you don't really think about, but then you see it happen live, and you're like, oh, this is a game changer, right?
For sure.
Another big one I think is actionable data. So like you don't really have, if you don't have a system, you don't have any metrics to track, right? If you're not tracking anything, you can't make any decisions with that data. I think Made Central is like the greatest example of this in our industry. There are so many things we didn't have data for before using Made Central, right? Like simple things like the not simple, but important things like the efficiency report and the efficiency numbers.
Yeah.
It's such a crazy thing to think that all their softwares don't have that built in because you're not tracking when they clock in versus when they clock into the job and stuff. And it's like I can't imagine running my business without that. But then even further, like smaller things like tracking why a customer moved their cleaning, whether it was a move or a bump or all those other options.
Yeah.
It's like I hadn't even thought of that before using Made Central, and now I cannot imagine not having it, right?
Yeah.
And then being able to go back and look at what all those different metrics mean and make decisions on it is awesome.
I really like that you have reduced owner input in there too, because one of the things that we run into all the time is owners complaining, like, why are they so stupid? I already told them this. Why don't they do it? Why haven't people are not stupid, y'all. You're creating a system, and whereas they will come to you, and that's how they're supposed to get the answer. The system is, when I don't have an answer for something, call the boss, ask the question. The boss will tell me what the answer is, and then I'll go do the thing. That's the system, right? Until you. So having really good, strong systems, business systems, reduces that entirely. There's no reason for them to call you. They don't want to call you, and it wouldn't make sense. So I love that one.
You're
Totally.
setting your team up for success.
Yeah.
With this. But everybody wants to work or be part of a team that's set up for success.
Totally. Yeah. And as a business owner who doesn't want to have to give much input, I like that one a lot too.
too.
Part of the reason we built the inventory management software is because I like to joke. I was getting calls at 7 a.m. Hey Dave, we're out of toilet paper, and it's like, well, that's something that can't wait. You know what I mean? Like that's something you gotta have right away. Next, another interesting one is increased sellability. I think this is one people often know intuitively that you can't sell a business unless you have good systems and processes. There's a really great book on this. I don't know if you guys have read this before.
I haven't.
Yes, I mean, creating a business that can thrive without you. They do it as like a narrative in this book. They tell the story of someone who used to own a marketing company, and he was kind of doing all these different things, and he was, I don't know, it's a great book. It's the reason I started a cleaning company, actually, was because I wanted to start a business that was what I thought was going to be easy to build processes around. I didn't realize how naive I was. Nothing's easy. One moment here, sorry. Computer just locked on me.
I'm excited to read that book. I haven't read this. I've read a lot of books about this topic, but I haven't read this one. So I'm looking forward to it, especially if it was that compelling that it got you to decide, I'm going to start a cleaning business. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
It really spoke to, I used to own a marketing company, and we used to sell websites and do Google ads and SEO and all these different things. And because we did so much, we didn't have any process for anything. And so I had to be involved in everything, and it was a total nightmare. I was working nonstop, selling, delivering work, and I had a couple employees, but they couldn't do anything without me, right? Because it was my own fault, right? And so reading this book, I was like, oh, this makes sense. I've built not a business, but a job that I didn't even like very much, right? And so started the cleaning company for other reasons, but partially because I wanted something that I thought would be easier to scale and build systems around and stuff.
Okay.
So going back to these real quick, obviously we feel all these things as small business, but as Franklin was saying earlier, as a large automotive supplier or manufacturing company, these are tenfold, right? I think Frank had some interesting stories about Toyota and some other stuff he can jump in with.
Yeah, so I don't know if we want to jump right into that, but kind of in the 80s, Japan surpassed the US in automobile production, and it was kind of a shocker to everybody, what's going on. So the US car companies got together and said, we need to take a trip to Japan, to Toyota, to see what's going on. And surprisingly to them, they welcomed them right into the factory, walked them down the line, and then handed them their actual production manual, their collection of systems. This is exactly how we do it, why we do it. And, they were kind of dumbfounded. Why would you give away your company secret, all the systems that make you successful? And they just said, listen, it took us 15 years to figure it out. By the time you figure it out, we'll be 15 years ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And
you can't catch up.
It's the truth. Yeah. They basically just said, we're already so far ahead. Why does it matter? And it's true to this day. So that whole production manual was built around eliminating waste. So they identified 7 wastes at the time. Now it's 8 wastes. And we actually have a slide on this on slide 7 there. But they categorize everything that's non-value add to the customer. So they said defects to the product, overproducing. If you're going to build more than people will buy, that's a waste, and you need to pass that cost on to the customer. Waiting, non-utilized talent is the new one, but I think that's, that was put into place in the 2010s. Transportation, inventory, so holding on to excess inventory ties up your cash flow. Motion, actually moving pieces around the plant, and extra processing. And I think, Dave can vouch for this, but a lot of these you can directly apply to a cleaning company. You can kind of think through and let these guide your methodology on what should I turn into a system, or what should be a process to prevent over processing or extra processing or motion. I watched one of these smart business moves with the pod system. I think it's Matt Ricketts does it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting one about motion. Geofencing, where you're set up, preventing that long drive to and from the office for supplies.
All of this really applies to a cleaning business, in my mind, at a couple of levels. The activity of physically cleaning a home, so much of this applies. You don't want to be walking all over the house. I mean, you want to do it in as few steps as possible. You want to have your supplies with you. The transportation part, just the scheduling, you'll want to spend your time in a home actually being productive rather than looking out of a windshield going from home to home. All of this applies. And then running it from a business standpoint as well. David, you could drill down on that, but what you guys are doing from a supply standpoint, okay? Typically, supplies are less than 2% of revenue. So if you do a really good job of managing inventory control and stuff like that, maybe the impact on the bottom line, it could be meaningful, but it's not going to be huge. But what the heck does it cost you if you don't have the supply at the right place when you need it? That's when it gets really expensive.
Yeah,
or we
waiting.
or we found we had multiple people doing the job of, well, right now it's almost no one because the system's doing it, right? But we had, people wasting time digging through areas looking for supplies. We had all sorts of different waste with manpower.
Yep, and that's something I do like. I like the addition of the non-utilized talent or underutilized talent as an actual waste within business or within a process, because kind of like Dave was getting at, your employees have can be providing a lot more value than digging through your supply cabinet for that last bottle of toilet cleaner or counting stuff.
Yeah, I
Totally.
love that one too. I think that a lot of times we're thinking in terms of we need to utilize this talent, but we don't really we don't even know how to process it, think about it. Like, what do they do? It's just sort of a fleeting thought, right? So yeah, they can probably do other stuff. And onto my same thing that I was doing 5 minutes ago.
Right.
Totally.
Can
Yeah,
you
you mentioned a lot of, oh, go ahead.
can you talk to the difference between overproduction and extra processing?
So overproduction, I think this is more to, I think it's probably impossible to overproduce in cleaning.
Okay.
But if you're building cars and let's say the demand's only 100,000 cars, but you build 125,000, you have 25,000 sitting on a lot that you'll eventually need to depreciate or sell for under the, below what you built it for. So that cost gets passed along to the customers who did buy those 100,000 versus over processing or extra processing is like what Tom said with the rubber mallet at the end of the line. If you built the door right in the first place, you wouldn't need that rubber mallet to beat it into shape at the end. That's over processing.
Okay.
It's any rework.
Any extra? Yeah. All right. Yeah. So overproduction is more like if you're selling a good or product versus a service. All right. Makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I think the extra processing applies much more to cleaning.
Yeah.
I would say.
Wow. I can see how that one is huge. The extra processing, I think we all know, how does that hit your production, right? Your productivity.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yep. And we talked earlier about not shutting down the line. So kind of the gold standard now is you push through defective parts or cars or whatever through the line. And then you have a whole rework area where it's kind of a more artisan build to actually go back and fix that mistake that happened on cell 2 out of 100 in the production process. So it is hugely.
I don't think anybody. I'm sorry I cut you off, Frank. I love that you're apologizing for me cutting you off. Yeah, I excuse you for that. But I don't think we've mentioned this a couple times. I want to go back just real quick. I don't think we were live yet when we were talking about a couple of these things.
Oh, okay.
I think we were still not live. Tom, was the mallet? Were we live then?
No. Well, no, I think we were. We were.
Okay. Anybody that's on right now, if we say something, you're like, what? I didn't hear anything about that. Please hit us up, give me a comment, and then we'll make sure and clarify for that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad I cut you off to say that.
So this is the 8 wastes. Again, there's a ton of crossover with small business and cleaning companies at large, all that stuff. A big pain point that I felt specifically, which has all sorts of downstream different wastes that come out of it, is, and I still feel this, is too much tribal knowledge. I don't know if you guys have ever used that term before, but like not having enough written down, having too much in the hands of only a few key employees. And that was the big problem with inventory specifically, was that only I had the info of all their different vendors, where we buy it from, because we do a lot with local vendors and stuff. And so having someone else navigate that, it was just easier every time for me just to go through and order it than to give it to someone else, because it was going to be a 2-hour project to give them all the information, which doesn't sound that hard when you say it out loud. But talking with Frank, though, he had all sorts of great ways to fix those problems. And we had talked about, Made Central being a great example of getting tribal knowledge out of your head or out of a few key employees' heads so that everyone has the information. It's like a democratic system everyone can add to or retrieve information from. And I said, I need, Made Central, but for every part of my business, right? And Franklin had talked about, typically what you do is you build a matrix of here's actually, I'll just go to the slide here shortly. Sorry, I'm talking over it.
Yeah, and this is not to cut Dave off here, but this is kind of when you're looking for problems to solve. this is kind of how you should evaluate your proposed solutions. So you'll look at all of the problems in your business that lead to waste. You'll think of a solution on how to fix that or how to implement that. And this is kind of how you pick what to tackle. So you can take it away again, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, you can keep going too. I mean, so it's impact versus effort, right? Obviously, you want the highest impact, lowest effort things first fixed, right? Sometimes you can't do it in that order, right? If you have a fire happening at your office, a literal fire, that might be a lot of a lot of effort, but the impact is too great to wait any longer, right? So we had talked and we had kind of gone through this exercise a bit, and I had also already been complaining about my inventory management stuff, and so we started looking at basically he had said, hey, you need inventory management, that's what you need, and I said, yeah, I know, but how do I build that? I have no idea, right? And he started showing me different ways that other like manufacturing companies, like the solutions they have, and they were so cool. I'm gonna go through a couple of them real quick. I'm kind of going out of order here, but have you guys ever seen these before, Liz or Tom?
I don't think so.
Are they vending machines?
They're vending machines. So that's how they give their supplies out at a lot of these shops. Is they'll have a vending machine. So you take one, or you type in your employee code. Everything's usually free. You're not paying for it. And then that way the system knows, who took out, 4 batteries 2 days in a row or something, right? Because Franklin was explaining that you have all these supplies out there. People would be just taking handfuls of batteries, otherwise taking them home, whatever else, right? So this was so cool to me, and I was like, I want this exactly for my business, right? Also, we'll come back to this one. Tool cribs, right? So there's two different things you're managing when you're doing inventory, right? So we have consumables and supplies. So you have, cleaning products, magic erasers, even like mops would be considered like a consumable, I think, for most of us. Like you're giving them to the team and they're using it until it breaks or whatever else, right? They're not usually returning.
Or they lose it.
Or they lose it. Yeah, leave it at someone's house, right? Microfiber cloths, everyone knows those are very consumable for our staff. So that's one thing you're managing, but then you also have equipment that you're managing. So like for us, it would be company cars, our equipment, where people are taking them for the day and they're returning them. We have a steam cleaner we use to clean ovens. That would be equipment that's like a tool rental type thing.
Okay.
And so they have, tool cribs that are basically a caged in, area that only certain employees have access to. Oftentimes they'll have like a sign out sheet or whatever else, right? Not an excellent solution, but it's just seeing the way they solve these problems makes complete sense as to how we could solve them, right?
Yeah.
And the initial steps when we sat down and talked, I had no idea this existed, and I'm like, even knowing this, they should teach this in business school to every business owner is 5S. I thought this was such a great thing. So Frank, you can speak to this if you like.
Do you want to full screen it so maybe people who are calling in can kind of see the subtext a little bit better?
Yeah, I don't know if I want to try that. I don't know.
Just slideshow top right.
Go up to the slideshow. Yeah.
Is that going to work? Oh, it does work. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know if it would work with the screen share. Sorry.
So yeah, this just goes along with any proper inventory management, but this is just kind of the steps to create a tidy shop. It doesn't necessarily have to do with inventory or things that you're renting or taking out or using, but you start with just sorting. So take stock of everything in the building. It can be your mouse, your computer monitors, and you'll inevitably, when you really go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, you'll find things you don't need. So immediately get rid of those. I think there was the Marie Kondo thing where if you go through your house, you're going to find a truckload of stuff that you just will never use, so remove the clutter so you can focus on what's really important.
I have a question.
Ahead. Yeah.
I'm going to raise my hand because I am notorious for interrupting. All right. So what do you do about stuff like, I was at a business maybe 9 months ago now, and she had the vacuum graveyard, and there were at least 50 vacuums in there that were broken, but they're keeping them for parts.
Okay.
What do you do about that? It was a huge portion of their office that had been relegated to to the graveyard?
So I would say that space costs money. If you're renting a building, that space is costing you money. You could probably put something better there. So if there is a bona fide need to have those parts on hand, maybe identify what those wear parts are. So maybe it's some fitting off of the vacuum and get rid of the bag, right? Or get rid of the stem of the vacuum or the head. Actually take stock of what you need. Maybe try to compress that down into a smaller form factor.
Get rid of everything you know that you're not going to need. You're not going to reuse. You're not reusing, for example, the cord or old beater bars or whatever, roller bars, any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I hazard a guess that not every part.
We don't beat carpets.
I know. Sorry, Tom.
That's okay. Or could you just do you need 50 of them? If you disposed of 40 and kept 10, would that still be more than you need?
The ironic thing here is that I'm here, saying this is a good idea that we do 5S, and I also have the vacuum graveyard, so I got to think about that now.
But you can have a system for when a vacuum breaks, you strip it immediately within 5 minutes, right? This comes off, this comes off, this comes off. These get put here, and the rest of the stuff gets put into the dumpster.
Yeah, I think Franklin had the perfect answer too, because we buy the Hoover backpack vacs and we have the Sanitaire bagged vacs, right? And both of those have 3 things each that break all the time. It's like I'll take those parts off, keep those, and then also the other thing to think about is that a new vacuum is only $300. It's like, does it make sense for me to become the vacuum part store? Probably not, right? Not for that amount of money to replace it. Yeah. So I think that's a good answer from Franklin.
And I think the vacuums that I was looking at were about 150.
Yeah.
Piece.
Okay, then I probably wouldn't even keep
they
those.
Were sharks.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah. Well, we get stuck doing that kind of stuff, right? Where we do keep all of the stuff and we think we're saving ourselves money. But we're actually, time is money, which we've all heard. So, all right, I'm going to try not to interrupt again, Frank. I'm going to try.
No, I like the questions. So.
Okay.
Yeah, well, one thing I want to jump into is like a year ago, we had considered changing our office space. We don't have a ton of space. We have 20 employees right now, but we only have, I think, a 600 or 700 square foot space right now. But we don't work in the office, all of us, right? So we were going to upsize our office, and then I realized what a stupid idea. Like there's only 3 of us in the office daily, right? And so what we started doing was we went and bought a bunch of vertical racks so we could start storing things higher because we have like 14-foot ceilings,
Oh.
And that made all the difference. And I often think $400 in shelving saved us, an extra $1,000 a month at least in rent that would have just been total waste. So I think what Frank was saying about space being, you're paying for space, it's important.
Yeah, utilize every bit of it. So vertical space is a big one. So Dave kind of got ahead of us a little bit here because the next is set in order. And kind of the saying that goes with this is a place for everything and everything in its place. So it's just getting organized and defining where those things you want to keep go. Where do they live? Where should they end up at the end of the night? So
I love that so much.
If I'm sure everybody at home puts the TV remote in the same spot every night. And if you don't, you can't find it. Or your keys, you put them in the same spot every night. So it's really just taking a hard look at your space or your process, your workspace, and saying what should go where. And that's a process. It's every single night they end up there.
And that one's important not only for physical space, but for virtual stuff. So like making sure your file structure for your staff is, organized and making sure that people know to go to this page for whatever, right? Made Central, same idea, making sure your naming conventions are all the same, making sure that you put the access notes in the access notes section for the home, right? So I think about 5S when I build any system, not just a physical location type thing.
Makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a bit of irony there.
Me too.
Yeah, it's a bit of housekeeping here. So the next one is shine. So this one's kind of bare bones, but it's really just keeping the work area clean, actually tidy, because it's easier to spot a mess. So if you have a dirty room, you have clothes everywhere, you can't really see the the forest through the trees. You know, it's everything's messy, no idea where anything's at. But if a room is sparkling, you can spot that little thing that you dropped. You know.
Also,
Oh,
this has to be in order, because if you don't have a place for everything and everything in its order, you can't keep a tidy space, because things will just land places because they don't have a place. So this order is making perfect sense to me too.
Yeah, it's a total step-by-step process. So
Yeah.
Keeping it clean. So now that you have everything organized, keep it organized.
Yeah.
And then the next is standardize. So this is again a system within the system, let's say. So to keep an orderly space, you really need to set rules and make sure you stick to them. You know, that's the tough part, is really sticking to them. And that gets into the next one with sustain. But, you know, that can be as simple as having a cleaning schedule around the office, having a nightly walkthrough for your office manager to set everything back in place. And if you have a clean shop, that should be easy to do, right? It's one or two things. It's apparent what's out of place. So that's really the standardize. It's just setting up rules and sticking to them. And then the last is sustain. And I like that really any manufacturing process always ends with kind of a check in on the process step. So with sustain, it's, you know, regularly check in and say, what's working about how I have this set up? What are pain points? What are things that I'm noticing are consistently out of place? You know, is there a better way to store this? And implementing those changes. So it's kind of a cyclical system.
One thing I want to touch on, Franklin, what were the cutouts for tools that you guys use with the foam and the colored back?
Oh yeah, that would be a good one to share. I don't know if we have a slide on that. I don't think we do.
I can copy and paste it in. What are those called?
But it's called a shadow board. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I've seen like janitorial closets within manufacturing spaces will use them too. But
if the wrench isn't there, there's a hole where it's supposed to be.
Exactly. Yeah. You have a big bright red behind where the tool is usually against a black background, and that's that, you know, easy to spot.
Kind of doing it janky here, but this is what we're talking about. So we do this on a smaller scale at Squeaky's. We just have everything labeled. So every piece of equipment we have labeled where it goes. Like it looks kind of funny sometimes because there's so many labels around our office. But it's been a game changer because you can walk through the office in 5 minutes and you can see, oh, someone didn't bring this back. Where is this, right? And if we didn't have it in that pace every time, we wouldn't know for weeks probably that we were missing that item, right?
Yeah.
And then same goes for, like I was saying, virtual stuff. If you put the notes for, if you put the notes for how to get in the customer's home in the same spot every time, when it's time to, when we're locked out of a house, you know whether the customer has notes about access to get into their home, right? So everything, I like to think of everything should be shadow boarded. Everything that we interact with should be shadow boarded in some way, whether virtually or in the physical realm.
So you have a 6S.
Yeah.
And shadow board.
Yeah.
I would argue that that's the set in order. That's your place for everything.
Yeah. Nice.
Right. Yep. So we went through this exercise. That was actually the hardest part of. Oh, I just stopped sharing my screen. I'm doing too much here at once. Hold on one moment here. We'll just use the inventory management stuff as kind of an example of how, we implemented a process, because it's the one that's most fresh on our minds.
Nice.
So we went through all of, you guys can see my screen again, right?
Not yet.
It shows it up here. It says that I'm sharing it. That's strange.
I see it. Tom, can you pull it up? Add the stage. I got it.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Got it. Okay. So specifically for inventory management, this is where a lot of the work takes place. And this is not this is something anyone can do to start if they want to start getting their inventory system better, right? So they can go through, label all the products. We went and purchased inventory boxes from Container Store. They're pricey, but you've seen them before. They're the ones that have the open face front and you can pull from them, and they have a spot for a label. Couple $100 later, we had those for every single item we use. And we also implemented what's called a supermarket This is another favorite of mine, and I think a lot of companies just do this. They just figure this out intuitively. But a lot of big companies we've talked to, like Made Central users who want to use our inventory stuff, don't have this. And then we talk it through with them. They're like, oh, that makes so much sense. How are we doing it ever before? So the idea is that you'd have what's called a warehouse and a supermarket. The warehouse is where you keep all of your back stock of supplies. The supermarket is where the staff can take things freely at will. And then you replace the supermarket from the warehouse each day or when it gets low, right? So you track things out of the warehouse, in and out of the warehouse, rather. You don't track things out of the supermarket because otherwise your staff would have to be scanning an item out every time they take a magic eraser to scan it out one by one, and it wouldn't be useful, right? In this scenario, you scan out 40 magic erasers into a bin for the supermarket so that they can take those freely, and then you replenish them as needed, and there's no go between every time they want to use something. Now, it's not a necessity. You don't have to do that. But for us to have someone available or around to it was too much of a hindrance to getting people to actually use the system, right? And that's a huge thing you have to look out for is when you're creating a system for multiple people to use, you want to make it easy, and you want to make it so that they're not going to want to go out of process behind your back to do it faster, right? Did I explain this well? Sorry, I know I've been talking. Does it make sense with how this works?
You inventory the reserve stock, if you will, and every time you pull a case of something, you scan it and note. But whatever is in your forward stock in the bin, if you will, that people are picking from, you don't really worry about it. It's just like when it's empty, you pull another box from reserve.
Exactly. Yep. The story behind this, Frank just found out today, is actually really funny. So back to Toyota. You can tell it, Frank. Sorry.
Oh yeah, this is kind of funny. I never knew why it was called the supermarket beyond just, okay, it looks like a supermarket. You walk in, with your shopping cart and you take what you need.
Yeah.
So we were talking about in the 80s when Japan surpassed the US, but back in the 50s, post-war, the US was marching ahead with production lines and assembly lines. So the Japanese auto companies came over. I think it was a Mitsubishi exec. And he was walking through the Piggly Wiggly, through the supermarket. And he said, this would look great in a factory, some sort of system like that. He saw the people restocking the shelves and saw everyone taking it off. So I find that pretty interesting. No supermarket in Japan in the 50s.
Right.
And here we are.
We got them here. I know that when I'm talking to people about this, I'm going to get this pushback. And I know what Tom's answer would be, but I'd love to hear what David, you and Frank would have to say about this. So I'm going to get this pushback. Yeah, but you don't understand. My people take too many magic erasers and then they just lose them and they throw them away. And I can't just let them have free reign because they'll go rogue. They'll just, I can't.
Sure.
I have to manage every single magic eraser. I have to.
And don't get me started on the microfiber towels.
Oh my gosh, because those cost even more, right? So.
Yeah, and maybe some of that's legitimate. Maybe I just don't care enough at my business, and maybe I'm losing a bunch of money because of it. But the way I look at it is, the waste that we would incur, like Tom was saying earlier, your supplies are what, 2% of your total cost for the year? It's like, we pay, I think, 60 cents per magic eraser. Actually, a little fun thing for everyone listening, I'm actually ordering 10,000 magic erasers from China right now at close to 25 cents a piece, so I'm pretty excited about that. So but yeah, so to me, it's like the amount of time I would spend trying to stop that issue is time that would be much more valuable somewhere else. So I'd rather eat the cost on the 60-cent magic erasers than not be able to do other important things.
Back to time is money again, right? Back to
Totally.
time is money. And no matter what, you are going to have some supplies. If your costs are already below 2%, then you're probably good. Now, maybe if your costs start climbing, right? Maybe if you're losing an entire percent, maybe it's a one-time job, right? We need a new system, right? But most systems are, I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Frank, but I think that a lot, maybe not most, but a lot of times, one of the ways that you know when you need a system is if you keep doing something over and over again. You're losing small amounts of time over long periods of time that add up to a lot more, substantially more than the cost upfront, one time, to create the system.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's thinking long term with the systems. Sometimes it can cause short term pain, but you do actually save the time or the money in the long run.
And for small business owners, we hear this a lot. And we're all small business owners in this industry, right? But for very small business owners, we hear a lot, it's just easier. It's easier for me to do it. But it's really not. It's might feel easier in the moment, but long term, back to that one slide that you had of all the boxes, that owner need, right? When they're reliant on you, you can't get away.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm always just a few. It's easier for me to do it from, being back in the field cleaning or something, right? Like there's it's a slippery slope when you start thinking that way, right? And I don't know if I'm just lazy. I don't know if I'd like to say I'm forward thinking and I want to be scalable and stuff. But honestly, I just don't want to do most of those things. It's not easier for me to do it. And so I try really hard to delegate. I try really hard to build systems so I don't have to be brought in to do certain things. The good thing about employing a system is what I would challenge people with if they said to you, hey, I can't give up, the waste on these microfiber towels or whatever else. What I would say is implement a system, any system, because then you'll know how many you're actually using, right? So I had thought our waste for magic erasers was pretty bad, but it's a disposable item. So what do I know, right? Like I don't know exactly how long it should take to use it. But now because we're tracking how many we use in a month, I've noticed it almost perfectly scales with our revenue right now. It's going up as we book more clients, which tells me if it's perfectly scaling, we're not wasting needlessly as much.
That's
right?
the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And so much more important than the cost of the supplies, because it is relatively small in the whole scheme of things, is what it means to your production. Going back to the 6 inefficiency slide that we were looking at earlier, and nobody really wants to work at a place if they don't have the tools to do their job. That's one of the Q12 surveys, right?
Yeah.
So if you got this messed up here, your turnover is going to be higher, your consistency is going to be higher, your customer churn is going to be higher. I mean, the real cost is so much bigger than whatever it is you're paying for microfiber and magic erasers. You're have an employee turnover and customer churn because of this. Where if you got this organized and it's a comfortable, clean, place to work, and I always have the stuff that I need and it's always in good shape, that's a job that people want to get out of bed and go to in the morning.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing too, is like, what is the cost of so there's the actual cost of the magic erasers, but then there's the cost of, hey, how much is my staff just gonna not want to listen to me if I'm constantly complaining about them using too many magic erasers, right? Like it's just gonna fall on deaf ears eventually.
This is really cool. I mean, I don't think, honestly, I never really thought about this way until this presentation. What about supplies? That's only, 1-2%. You got other things to worry about. No, if you don't have this right, this is creating an environment where people want to be and want to stay.
Totally.
We are approaching the top of the hour. We've got about 3 or 4 more minutes, David, and you've developed some software to help make a lot of this happen. You want to share with us a little bit about what that's about?
Yeah. So going back to that slide with the vending machines, I basically told Frank, hey, I want to build something that gives us that power, but in our office, right? So we built Stockwhile. It's an inventory management system purpose built for service companies. I mean, obviously cleaning companies are the top service we're trying to go after and trying to help out. But the cool thing here is you can set this up in your stock room for your staff. We recommend you use like a cheap Chromebook for your staff to use. We use traditional barcode scanners so that there's no mobile app to mess with, anything like that. You just take the scanner off the shelf, scan the items out. Stockwile will actually export labels for you with barcodes on them for each item, which was a bit like, so for that set and order, everything in its place, a place for everything. This helps you create that with, you upload your Excel sheet of your items, you export them to barcodes, you print them off on a regular standard computer on some Avery labels, and then you're off to the races. You have an inventory management system within a week or two.
Nice.
And then when it comes time to reorder, you get an email saying, "Hey Dave, time to reorder your supplies." I click in here, and guess what? All of the links for anything on Amazon is right there to reorder from. And then for any local vendors, I click a button and it will generate a purchase order, and I can just email them the purchase order real quick. So this has saved us a ton of time in dealing with vendors, reordering supplies, all that good stuff. And this is just the beginning. So in the future, we plan to add rentals, so you can rent an item. So if you have a car key for the day, you scan it out as a rental, and then if that car is not scanned back in within 10 hours, guess who's getting an email? The owner or the manager, whoever else, saying, "Why wasn't the car key scanned back in?" "Oh, Susie brought it home with her that day." That's why, right?
Yeah.
So all sorts of fun features like that. We're just getting out of our private beta and moving to an actual paid software, which we're excited about. And the way to find us is stockwile.com. Kind of a play on words with stockpile. You don't want to stockpile your supplies.
That's cute. That's
Yep.
cute. I get it.
Yeah.
Do you have pricing on your site? What are we looking
We
at?
don't have it on the site. It's $80 a month right now. And the features are increasing every month. So what it has today, it probably won't have a couple weeks from now. We're moving quick and adding features, so we're excited.
I dropped the URL in chat. So if somebody wants to know more, have more information, a demo, whatever, do they just go to your website and request that?
Yeah, here, actually, I'll share my screen real quick. Do we have enough time for this? I'll just show them what.
Okay.
Be fast. You got 1 minute.
Uh-oh. Well, either way, so if I don't get it in time, head to the.
I'm excited.
You want to share your
Stockwile
website?
Yeah.
I got your website right here.
Okay. Yeah,
Cool.
head to Stockwile. It tells you a bit about it. Those are the labels, whatever else. And at the bottom here, schedule this demo here, and we'll get you all set up.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, y'all.
Cool.
You saw it here. Great.
Thank you, guys.
Frank,
you
it was a pleasure to meet you. David, thanks so much. This is
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
This is great.
Cool.
Brand new too.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love that. I really do. All right.
Cool.
Thanks so much, y'all.
Yep. Take care.
Talk
Thank
soon.
you.
See you next Wednesday. Take
See you
care.
next Wednesday,
Bye-bye.
everybody.
Bye-bye.